this meeting to order. It's Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 4 o'clock p.m. Welcome to the general government meeting. We are going to start with item number one. I'm joined by my colleagues here, Jerry Martin. We also have Councilor Fenton, who I see on Zoom. I saw Madam President, Councilor Whitfield. I also saw Councilor Perez. Am I missing anyone else who I apologize, is having a little trouble seeing? I now understand what Councilor Bruce Click was saying at our last subcommittee meeting. And so we're going to get started. We have two items on the agenda. The first item is the confirmation appointment of John McCloskey to the Mobile Home Rent Control Board. And so we will get started with that item. The second item is a discussion of the 2025 elections. And so we'll move on to that after we dispose of the first item. So we are joined, I believe, on Zoom by Mr. McCloskey. So Mr. McCloskey, the floor is yours. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the Mobile Home Rent Control Board. Since I have no idea what it is, it'd be greatly appreciated. Looks like you're trying to unmute yourself. We'll give you a minute or so. Oh, do I need to unmute you?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, thank you for considering me on the board here. A little bit about myself. I live in Forest Park with my wife and our two children. And I work for the city. I coach youth baseball. I coach youth basketball. If you'd like me to go through my career, I can do that.
We don't need all of that. If you could just give us an idea as to why you'd like to be on the Rent Control Board. Have you served previously? And if you have an idea as to what it is that they do, I greatly appreciate you sharing that information.
Sure. I've never served before. This would be my first board. How I understand it is there's controversy between the renters in the mobile home lot and the owner who owns the lot over the cost of the rent. I believe it went from 200 to 500 something. And so I believe the board is to, figure out a solution between the two parties. That's pretty much as I know about it. So I volunteered to be a member on that board. And if you deem me worthy, I'm here to, be a part of that.
So I appreciate you, Mr. McCloskey, for volunteering your time. I did see from your resume that you're a graduate of Springfield, or you received your teaching licensure program from Springfield College. You're also a former educator in the Springfield Public Schools, and then you received your Bachelor of Arts from Western New England University. So you certainly have a number of things going in your favor, as I am also an alum of Western New England University, and I also am a former educator in the Springfield Public Schools. So
nice.
I appreciate your service. I appreciate your desire to serve on the board. I just want to acknowledge Councilor Victor Davila, who is a member of this committee, who just joined us. And then the last thing I'll say is that we did receive a letter from the mayor saying that he was in favor of Mr. McCloskey to be appointed to this board. Actually, I believe he was the appointing individual. So if my colleagues have any questions, we can certainly entertain it at this time. If not, we can move to a vote to bring this to the full body.
I have a quick question for me.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, there you are. John, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good. Thank you.
Good to see you. John, what member are you going to be? Is the board going to be complete with your appointment? Because I think we had like one or two openings before.
As far as I know, it was one. I was replacing I don't have his name with me, but as far as I know, it was just one.
Madam Clerk, do you want?
Yes, he would be replacing Jesus Mercy from the Housing
Right.
Division.
Oh, Jesus RC, okay, which recently retired, I believe. I believe so. So we're gonna have a full complement of the board. Correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Excellent. And just wanna get your thoughts, John, and thank you for your interest in serving the mobile rental control boards, excuse me, yeah, control board. Is one of those boards that do impact people, but those are people's homes as well. Do you have any thoughts about in terms of like their property going up? And because I have heard some concerns that they themselves are experiences difficulties with the rent as well. I know that,
You're talking about the renters?
yeah. Can you give me a little bit of your thoughts on that, if you don't mind, John?
Yeah, what I understand is the renters have been paying the same price 10 or 20 years. And so to go up 150% for people that are on a fixed income, I think that's tough. I think rising rents across the country are a problem. And so if, I can contribute to coming up with a solution between the two parties, that's something I'd be interested in serving my community for. Again, people on fixed incomes, that's pretty tough if you're gonna have 150% increase in your rent. So if there's something I can look at, I can look at the facts,
Gotcha.
I would be willing to, be a part of that.
Okay. I see that you work for the city right now in the Parks Department.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you for your service, and
Thank you.
you're like me, you have a degree in political science.
Yes.
Yeah, political science and economics myself.
Nice. Very nice.
Hey, all right, John, that's all the questions. Is there anything else you wanna throw my way? No, go ahead, John.
We got easy clear, so they got 20 trailers, 40 buses.
If we could make sure to mute ourselves for those of you that are on Zoom, I'm not 100% sure if we can mute you from here.
Yes.
But we can, okay. I don't know who may not be muted. Go ahead, John.
Anything else you wanna throw my way, or?
No, I don't have anything for you, no.
All right, thank you, John, thank you.
Thank you,
Gary.
Councilor Davila. I see Madam President, Councilor Whitfield has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, John. I read your resume as well. My question to you is, how did you find out about this position?
From the mayor's office.
Or the mayor's office called you directly?
Correct.
Okay, because when I look online and it says if you're interested in being appointed to, and this is for counselors and Gladys, because we usually go to her for appointments, it says that you fill out a form and upload your resume. So I'm just trying to see, because and this is not picking on you, John, I think you have a wonderful resume, and I also think that you could be a good fit based on what I read on your resume. So this is more about the process for me, because we need a fair and equitable process, not the mayor picking favorites or whatever. I was at another board committee, and there was another guy there, and I said, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, I'm new to the board, whatever." I said, "Oh, well, how'd you get selected?" "Oh, the mayor came to my house and just asked me if I wanted to be on the board." And I think that's just an unfair process. And I think it's not for you, John. And I'm just saying.
Not to cut you off, it wasn't the mayor directly, but people within the city that I work with is how I heard about it.
Okay.
And that's.
But the mayor's
that's
office
my
is
interest.
the one who, anyways,
Well,
right now, I'm not directing
No,
these
what I'm
comments to
saying
you,
is
John.
people I
Hey,
work
John,
with is how.
John,
Okay, I
hold on
understand.
for a
I'm
quick
not
second,
directing
and
these
then
comments to you. I'm just saying
I
them for the
understand.
public. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying them for the public and to have it on the record. The process of how these board and commissions are selected is an unfair process. I seen where you can go online if you're interested in any board and commission and apply for it and put your resume up there. And I know a few people who have that has never been contacted, never had any yay or nay for the positions that they are interested in. And so this is the second time in less than a month that a person came that was at a board meeting said that they were knocked on the door or they were tapped into to be on a board. And that is not a fair process to me. I want to go on the record and say that. And then I also been looking at the boards and commissions myself, doing my own research, because there are some appointments that city council have. We need to be looking at those appointments and we need to be changing some of those appointments because people are in these positions way too long. And so I just wanted to go on the record and say that, John, I am not against you. I support your appointment to this board and commission, but I have to say my piece on the record publicly for everyone to hear. This process is tainted, it's unfair, and it needs to be changed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam President. I certainly think you've raised some very valid points and, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to have a meeting dealing solely with the boards and appointments and the entire process. I too have oftentimes wondered how those individuals receive notice of the vacancies and how they were informed to actually apply. I'm sure there are a number of other residents who would want to take part in volunteering their time to serve on a variety of different boards and commissions. I also think there's an ordinance that I believe was spearheaded before I left regarding filling the vacancies of the boards and commissions, but I have to double check that. But certainly we will entertain that at another general government meeting. Point well taken. Are there any other comments regarding the appointment of John McCloskey to the Mobile Home Rent Control Board from my colleagues?
I'll just say briefly, John, thank you for your what seems to be quite long resume and years of public service to the city of Springfield, and look forward to seeing if this pursues another paths, and thank you for wanting to serve in another capacity. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. With that being said, I think we can dispose of this item. If we'd like to have a vote to send this to the full committee or a vote of approval to send this to the full committee, then I'll certainly entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to recommend to the full body, Mr. Chair, the appointment of John McCloskey to the Mobile Home Rent Control Board, which the term, Madam Clerk, can you specify the term for us?
3 years.
3 years, so that will be according to, if it goes well, will be the next regular meeting, right?
Yes,
Okay, so that will be March.
yes.
So whatever March date to 2026 to 29, March 29th.
Yes.
That's the motion.
So a motion has been made by Councilor Davila to recommend Mr. McCloskey to the Mobile Home Rent Control Board. Is there a second to that motion?
Second motion.
That motion was seconded by Mr. Martin. Councilor, Madam President, do you have your hand up on the
Yes, I
motion?
do. Yes, I do.
Madam President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, just because Councilor Davila mentioned it, there are some outdated appointments, but I don't see a listing of names of people who are on these committees when their term limit is up. It's hard to even know. So I don't want to have to ask every time I'm looking at who's on boards and commissions if their term is up. Do we need to be reappointed? Some of the terms say that they will continue on until someone else is appointed, but some of them don't have that language. And so some of these board appointments expire and we have no way of noticing that. And so I'm going to send an email just asking that all of these people are put on the website when their term is and when their term limits are up. And if the term limit just automatically renews, fine, but we need to know that information. If their term limit is up and they need to be reappointed or someone else can be reappointed, we need to know that because it's nowhere. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chair.
You are welcome, Madam President. Gladys, if you could possibly get the entire council that information, it'd be greatly appreciated. Again, another valid point by the president. And if we could also get it on the website, if that makes sense, that'd be greatly appreciated as well.
Sure.
There's been a motion made by Councilor Davila. There has been a seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor of appointing Mr. McCloskey to the Rent Control Board, of advancing this item in the affirmative to the full body, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. McCloskey, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come before the General Government Committee.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So we will, at this time, move on to the second item on the agenda. And I know there are a number of individuals who are present for this particular item, the discussion of the 2025 elections. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge the newly elected school committee person, Mr. Gomez. Much appreciated you showing up here today. So the discussion of the 2025 elections, I know there are a number of concerns that I've heard from a number of individuals that are on this call, and also from a number of individuals who are not present here today. What I also know is that we're likely not going to get to all of the concerns and the issues that you all have. And so there will be subsequent meetings following this one to not only address the concerns that we don't get to today, because we do have a hard stop in 40 minutes, but to get to some of the other issues that have been raised. So whatever we don't get to today, we will follow up in subsequent meetings. What I'd like to see happen is I'm going to start with a variety of concerns that I've heard, and give Chelsea and Commissioner Gladys an opportunity to respond and potentially answer questions. And what we'll do with respect to the audience is that if you all have heard or want to weigh in on the variety of issues and concerns that I'm bringing to the table, then you certainly can do so after we address each of the concerns that I've heard. At the very end, if we have time, then we'll address additional concerns. We're also joined by Solicitor Bonacani. Much appreciated for you being here, Solicitor. And so the first issue and concern that I have, or that I've heard from a variety of constituents about the 2025 elections was around Rebecca Johnson School. And so we know that Rebecca Johnson is a double precinct. We know that it is 4A and 4B. We also know that it's one of the highest voting precincts in Ward 4. It's made up of primarily Black and Brown voters in that particular area. And on election day in November, and I was there witnessing this along with a number of individuals that I heard from when I wasn't there, there was no parking available in the little semicircle. There was no parking available in the front where folks normally park, nor was there parking available in the sort of overflow lot where the elementary school, or I'm sorry, the early education facility is. And so there were a number of people and voters that I saw that routinely came in and saw that there was no place for them to park, and they immediately pulled out. And so I guess my question to you or to you all is what can we do and what steps can be taken so that this will not happen in the upcoming election, so that we don't have to hear from constituents who are frustrated, and we can make voting more accessible to, in an area that doesn't see a high amount of voter turnout.
So first of all, I want to thank you for setting up this meeting in a venue where we can discuss it openly with the public, and these concerns, if they've been brought to you or to any of the other city councilors, just know that we've heard them as well. The first thing that any voter does the day after election or on election day is call our office. They also call the Secretary of State's office, and we get that call too. We did receive calls from actually the school department about the Rebecca Johnson parking situation and immediately acted in conjunction with Azelle Kavan Murphy from the school department to find who at Rebecca Johnson we could speak to. So what happened on that day, typically parking is never an issue there because the superintendents, former Superintendent Warwick and currently Superintendent Denal, have been really great partners with the election office, and they use election day as an in-service day for teachers. And so we typically don't have any issues at any of the schools that are polling locations. But this past election, we understand that the principal there, what they did was chose to use that site as an in-service day for teachers outside of their school. And so they had more than one school site located there for in-service. And we didn't know that until we got the phone calls. So as soon as we got the phone calls, we worked with the principal, with this central office to make sure that those cars were moved to allow access to the voters. Barring us, contacting every single school prior to, which we do through Chelsea, we actually have a relationship with Ricardo Garib from central office and each of the custodians to make sure that they know we're coming to drop off election equipment. They know that we're going to have our poll workers there. So it's really usually a pretty clean process. This past election at that site, it was something that we weren't made aware of what was going to happen, and we had to kind of on the fly try to act to correct it.
So I guess my fear is that, what are the steps we're able to put in place to prevent this from happening again? Because we don't know whether another school is going to have other schools participating in professional development at a particular voting location. And so is there anything that we can do in advance? Maybe reach out to the superintendent to find out what is happening, maybe make sure that we cordon off an area for folks to actually park. Is there anything else that you all can think of? And you may not have all of the answers now, but it's definitely something that I think we should think about moving forward.
I agree.
Are there any on the Rebecca Johnson school? Is there anyone who is in attendance or any of my colleagues that may have heard from other constituents regarding this polling location? Is there anyone that would like to speak on this issue?
May I?
Sherry.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thank you for allowing us to speak. One thing, I believe it would be sufficient, as always in most states, that the schools remain closed and they pick another day to do teacher professional day or whatever they're calling that. But I think on voting, the day of elections, it should be open just to the voters. That way we don't run into the issue of parking or anything else that confuse someone who's voting or cause conflict because somebody's voting for this person. And with everything on the rise with ICE and everything, I think they need to be closed and let people go in and vote the way they should.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. It would be great and ideal if that could actually happen. I mean, that certainly is the best case scenario, although, I certainly know that will be a conversation possibly to have with the superintendent. I don't know that this was a major issue on previous elections. I feel like I've witnessed that folks have been able to find parking. And so maybe this just was an anomaly. But what I do know is that anytime we have an instance where folks are having a difficult time getting to the polls, that's extremely problematic. And I know we all want to ensure that folks have access and that this doesn't happen again. So I just think we ought to plan accordingly to the extent we can. Councilor Davila, I know you have a question, and then I'll follow follow it up with Tracy Carpenter, who I see on there. I can't see everybody's name. Ms. Carpenter, the floor is yours. Counselor Davila, I defer to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just have two quick questions. One, I'm wondering how many schools currently serve as a polling location? I don't have a general sense of that. I don't know if that's something you know off the top of your head.
I can sit down and name them, but I can't, off the top of my head, I cannot. I would say maybe at least half of our polling
I was gonna
locations.
say, I wanna say at least
So we
20
have,
of them.
yeah, we have about 41 polling sites and at least half
Yeah.
are school locations. And to Sherry's suggestion, it's something I'm definitely willing to bring back to the superintendent. They've been great partners with us when it comes to using the school sites as polling locations. So I definitely will bring that back to the superintendent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess I'm also curious. I noticed before at Rebecca Johnson, just in our membership alone, I do have a fair amount of members who live in that ward. And it always seems like there's a lot of chaos that sort of happens over there in terms of just even candidates sort of not following proper protocol. I mean, almost escorting a senior from their car to the poll. There's many concerns I have like that. So I'm wondering, was there police presence there this time around, and were they not helpful in terms of sort of problem solving?
Well, the police presence does occur at all of the polling sites. So some mass law requires that either a police officer or a constable be at every single polling site. And here in Springfield, we use police officers. They, however, are on the inside of the building, and unless something is brought to their attention, and just to your point about Rebecca Johnson, rather than call it chaotic, I'll say it's lively, right? It's one of our livelier locations. And I think that's because of, to Councilor Hurst's point, it is one of, not only is it a joint location, it is a location that our candidates in Ward 4 target as a place to stand, hold signs, and people do. They get very passionate about who their candidate is. Sometimes it gets loud, sometimes it gets a little bit what you term as chaotic. But I think the police officers and the candidates have worked well, especially in these past elections, to try to make it as pleasant for each other, being supporters, and for the voters. We do have commissioners that visit that site. So we have election commissioners that visit that site. And we also have an attorney from the law department that goes to all the sites on election day. They drive around and make sure that not only the voters are able to access the polling sites, but that we're all following local, state, and federal laws.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it also may make sense to identify those precincts that receive a large number of residents to come and actually vote at that particular location. I know Rebecca Johnson is the highest voting precincts in Ward 4. And so I might, think about looking at some of the other wards as well and just make sure that we have sufficient as well. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Clerk, thank you for being here. Chelsea, thank you for being here. So I have heard some concerns. I don't know the extent. I just got more information through the chair as to the specific concern with the parking. And so I know parking can always be tough, depending on the election, depending who's on the ballot, state, federal, it makes it difficult. And so I know that we try to be as efficient as possible. I'm just kind of wondering, because it seems to me that it's a partnership between City Hall, school department, police department. If any, can you tell us what kind of motions were taken to remedy the problem at that time?
At Rebecca Johnson?
At Rebecca Johnson.
So we received the call from central office. So I specifically received the call from Mazel. And I then called the polling location to have the police officers check on the site. She, on her end, was calling principal to try to get her to have the teachers that were in the in-service training out to their cars so that they can move them.
Okay. So some sort of effort was made to to remedy the situation.
Yes, once we
Okay.
found out about it.
I understand. Now, if I'm, and of course, you run the department better than the other one, the department you do. And so, at the school department, but perhaps, may I humbly suggest that, a simple memo on next election and get everybody, buy them a cup of coffee and get them all together, to say this is the expectations. Just sometimes people need to rehear things, right? And to really ensure that we're on the same page. I know I've seen all the elections in which things are tough. It's busy. I mean, we can plan for the best, plan for the worst and hope for the best. I get it. That was just my quick observation on that particular issue. But that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Madam President Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had lost sound for a minute, so I don't know if this question was already asked and answered. But I want to understand what happened to the votes and why the numbers changed. I want to understand that.
So we're gonna get there. I don't know
Okay.
if we're gonna get there today, Councilor Whitfield, as there are a number of other issues that I'd like to highlight first. Certainly know folks are eager to figure out what went on there. But I do want to make sure that we highlight the concerns of the constituents in order of which I received them.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
But I got you. We're headed there.
All righty.
Whitfield,
Thank you.
or President Whitfield. Second issue and concern that I received from constituents. Victor, in your ward, Martin Luther King Jr. Charter School, 6G, 6H, also another double precinct. We don't have control over, or certainly I don't know if we have a relationship with that particular school. It's not under the auspices of the school committee or school department. And so I did receive a number of calls there in terms of folks not having a place to park. Was there anything done, and what are future solutions? And do we have to do a school that we may not have as much control of in Ward 6? I know it may be a central location for those precincts, but it seemed to be problematic.
I'm gonna I'm gonna work backwards and explain to you what. And just for the public at home, whoever's watching it now, and hopefully people that watch it afterward, polling locations are dictated by the boundary lines of the ward. So I'm just gonna go there so that we try to change polling locations as little as possible. And one of the things that we struggle with is finding a polling location that is a city-owned property as well. So we have many city-owned properties that we can use as polling locations, but once we have a polling site somewhere, we try to keep it there so that it doesn't lead to voter confusion, and so that it maintains kind of a sense of familiarity with the polling site, the polling workers. Sometimes people don't go out to vote every single election. They go out every 4 years for a presidential election, and they're used to a certain site. So I'm gonna just kind of frame it in that way. MLK has been a site for many years now. I can't tell you exactly how many. Prior to that, that polling site was in the little plaza where the dance studio is on Sumner Avenue at the X, if you recall, right before the Walgreens on the right-hand side. We had to change that. It's where the Goodwill used to be. The Goodwill was no longer, they closed down, so we had to move that polling site somewhere. At the time, one of the board members for MLK, who no longer serves as a board member, suggested that as a polling site. They used to be an election commissioner, and it was kind of a very favorable relationship, so we moved those two sites there. Now, once it was at that polling location, has always been a good site. They've been very flexible in how they've allowed us to deliver and store equipment there. Recently, there has been a change in administration, which has kind of made our stay at that site a little, less hospitable, to put it nicely. And Chelsea does all of the organization for every single polling site. She is the liaison between City Hall and the polling sites. And that's why I'm gonna let her speak to this site. We have discussed, because of this past election, have discussed an effort to try to move it somewhere. To move it to another site that's a city-owned building in that area. The issue then becomes having to move it to a site that A, is within the ward boundaries, and then B, at a time where it's not an election that is going to negatively affect the voters and potentially disenfranchise them because we're moving it, let's say, in a presidential election year, where we have the most amount of voters that go to the polls. This year looks like the year that we may have to move MLK. I literally have moved polling sites a very minimal times. In the 20 years I've worked in elections, we've moved them less than 10 polling locations. Those polling location moves have to go before the city council for a city council vote as well. And it's not a cumbersome process, but it's a process that we like to minimize if at all possible by trying to work with the host site. So I can let Chelsea explain this past election and some of the issues that we experienced there.
I kind of want to touch on too about the in-service days for the schools and the schools being closed during voting. That happened just not super long ago. So that happened relatively recently, and that's helped us out because the kids aren't there when we're voting and everything like that. I tried asking the new director, like she said, it switched hands, MLK. So I've tried discussing with the new director on taking advantage of an in-service day that day
MLK
too.
was open that day.
Yeah.
Regular.
MLK is not part of Springfield Public Schools, so he is not interested in shutting down for the schools. And as well as, he's more concerned of the parents and the teachers, and which understandably, but I've tried different scenarios with him in helping and assisting with election day, and there's very little movement, so it's been difficult over there.
So this was principal. I'm sorry.
Counselor Mari, followed by Counselor Davila.
I'm sorry, I'm just,
I don't think it's his type of
clarification, what was the role of this person?
He's not a principal. I don't know if he's the director, I think he's called.
Ms. Robertson?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, who's my contact there?
Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chelsea, that was my understanding as well, that that particular day, they had regular class.
Every election day,
And
yes.
I can tell you myself, doing my usual rounds,
Yeah,
I did observe that it was an extremely busy place.
it is.
However, I was able to, in my assessment, people were able to exercise their right, their right to vote. I think people went in, it was busy. I'm not gonna take that. It was very busy. Would I have preferred, or do I prefer that the school is done in session? I think that's obvious. I think all of us prefer that it's not, the schools are not in session. With that being said, talking about charter schools, you said there's a change in administration
There was,
at that site.
at that site.
Okay. Now, do we give them any kind of financial compensation for that day, or they just kind of donated
No.
the space?
No, it's like another school as far as that portion of it is concerned.
Okay. Because it will seem to me that we will have some sort of leverage to say, because, follow my logic here, Mr. Chair, this is what I'm thinking is, they get children from the school district, from all public school district. And with that, Mr. Chair, follows the money. If I'm not mistaken, it's about $12,000-13,000 per student. In fact, if a child, unless I'm mistaken, returns back to the school department, the money doesn't follow right away. It stays with that school for a while. In the meantime, we have to make do without the use of that money. We're going to recoup it at the end. But I wonder if done itself, because they are receiving public funds. It would seem to me, I don't have an answer, Mr. Chair, to that question right now, but it would seem to me that maybe we can use that as some sort of leverage to say, look, we need you to not have school these days. One, public safety. And two, you are getting public money. So I'm not exactly thrilled about this administration not cooperating with us. And have you heard any other complaints or any other issues with charter schools in specific throughout Springfield with the same problem that they refuse to cooperate with us?
That's the only one.
So I
Thank you, December.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. I guess 2 points that I would make. One, it seems to me that we might want to start the conversation if we're planning on using that site much earlier this year, so that we don't have the same issue occurring again in the state elections. We also might want to enlist the help of the administration, who ought to have some level of authority or say so over the individuals at this particular, or at least a better relationship at this particular school. I have to imagine that they would be amenable to a conversation from the mayor or the mayor's office, to assist us, as I would imagine that they would want to encourage voter access in the city of Springfield. So I certainly, I know you all have a difficult job, but I'd love in the future meeting to let us know how those conversations are going and potential next steps as to what is going to happen. Are there any other questions from counselors regarding either MLK Charter School or anything revolving around what it is we just talked about? And if there are any questions from the audience, we can certainly take those at this time. Councilor Perez.
I just have a question based on the comment that my colleague Davila just said. When it comes to the election, from the legal point of view, is this on a voluntary basis, or there's an ordinance in the city for point of education that when an election comes, the public schools are to be delegated for people to come in and vote, just for point of clarification?
I'm gonna repeat the question. So you wanted to know if there's a city ordinance that governs whether schools are to be closed on election day?
Right, from the legal point of view.
So our superintendent does that on a voluntary basis.
Okay, oh yeah, so thank you. I just wanted, just for the point of clarifying the community, that it's a voluntary basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. And again, for those that have just joined, this is not the last meeting. We're going to have subsequent meetings because the hope and the intention is that you all will be able to come back to us with a resolution and a plan of action for how it is that you all are going to move forward. And just sort of segueing off of this issue and the possibility that the potential site may change, I just want to segue into another concern around the change of a polling location. I know that the J.C. Williams Center was the polling location for Ward 3D and Ward 3E. I also know that there were many voters on election day who had no idea that that polling location changed from the J.C. Williams Center to Brookings School. I know and I understand afterwards that you all sent out cards letting folks know, which I certainly think is a good start. But it seems to me like there is more enlightenment that can happen to those individuals in those precincts if we're going to move a polling location. I know, bless you, I know that I went on the website because I put my signs at every polling location. And when I went on the website on the night before election, it printed out that it was at the J.C. Williams Center. And so the website was certainly not updated and it had not been changed yet. But the other thing is that, are there other ways that we can go about informing the general public, especially if we're going to move Dorset Street to another location, to make sure that voters know outside of just sending them the cards? And I know there are hands up in the chat. and we'll get to those as soon as we hear an answer.
Okay, sure. What I'll do is explain the process of how we change a polling location. So the polling location change, for J.C. Williams, we received a call from Pastor Rebecca letting us know that there was construction at that site and that they needed us to move because literally half the building was no longer. So in keeping with the rules and regulations, we had to find a site that was within the ward and precinct boundaries to move this polling place. The reason why it was at J.C. Williams to begin with was because that polling site was at Brookings School before the tornado, and we had to move the site years ago. So back in 2010, I believe. 11.
Right.
So when we received the call, we reached out to the superintendent, and again, she's been nothing but amenable to anything that we've needed for elections. She asked us she put us in contact with Principal Danica Johnson, and Principal Johnson told us she would be more than happy to host us. She invited us to Brookings School. We did a walkthrough, and she allowed us to use a beautiful space that she has. We kind of did a quick logistics with her senior custodian, and were able to agree on that site. So once that happens, we bring it before the city council. The city council votes to approve it, and that triggers what Councilor Hurst mentioned, which is a postcard mailing. So what we do is mail a postcard to each voter in the precinct that is moved. We have to, by law, do it 20 days prior to the election, and we have to send it to each individual voter. So we have to print up the postcards and do an individual mailing, which we did. Once that was done on election day, or actually the night before the election, I myself printed up a big A-frame sign. We put it right in front of J.C. Williams. I placed it there myself. That lets them know that if somebody by mistake didn't get the postcard and they show up to this polling site, it lets them know that the new polling site is over at Brookings School, which is less than 500 feet around the corner, and directed them to go to the other polling site. We made sure that we had signage at Brookings School, both on the street and down the driveway, letting voters know where the new polling site was at Brookings. Additionally, we posted on our Facebook page that the polling site had moved, and those were all the things that we did internally. Now, I was not aware that the website had, and I can look to see if the correction was made, but it's typically really it's a kind of advertising that the change is made, and that advertising starts when we post it on the city council meeting, so it gets on the agenda, and then we follow that process through to election day.
Thank you. I believe Danielle, is that who I see whose hands raised in the queue? Got a question?
Can you hear me? Yes.
I can.
Thank you, Justin Hurst, and everyone who was all here today. My question is for the election, seeing that there had been some issues where the polls weren't where the polls weren't available to people at the times that they were supposed to be opened. So I wanted to know, due to the fact that there weren't enough volunteers to help to open up the polls. So I wanted to know if there is a resolution prior to the election day, if there could be, if there weren't enough volunteers, if there could be people that were available to be there at the polls so that people can vote on time.
So Danielle, I appreciate your question. And actually, if there are no other questions on there, and I know Councilor Martin had a question, we're going to get your question answered, Danielle, but that actually segues into the very next topic that I had regarding another polling location that didn't open on time. So if I could just circle back to your question after giving
Sorry,
the.
Justin, can I ask
Counselor
a question on the Brookings School piece, on the postcard piece? I
Mhm.
somehow messed up my screen, so I couldn't raise my hand properly. I'm very sorry. I was just curious on the postcards that you sent out to the voters, and that's 6, it was, I think you said G and F, or G and H. Did you get a lot of returns on that?
There's always gonna be returns, but for the amount that we put out, I would say less than like an eighth, if that, like, not a lot came back of those.
Thank you. Would you say 5%?
I'm not good with, yeah, I would say maybe no more than 50 to 75 of them, and we sent
Gotcha.
out over 2,500, I think.
Okay,
Those are guesses, not exact numbers.
got it.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Counselor Martin.
Yeah, so not necessarily a question. I just wanted to, make a comment before our time is up. I know we have a hard stop at 5. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for conducting this meeting, and thank you for the residents who have come to, express their concerns. Some of them I don't know myself, but I just, on the record, I want to say that I have 100% confidence in Clerk Iola and her departments, including the election department. As a private citizen, as a candidate, as a counselor, I have found them to be extremely professional and competent, addressing any concern that I have had or may have had. And I know that they are going to work very hard to address these problems, and I look forward to doing that. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you for all your hard work. So stand behind you guys 100%.
Thank you, Counselor Martin. Are there any other questions regarding Brookings and more so the change of location of a polling booth? Oh, okay, seeing none, we will segue back to Danielle's question, which was another concern that I heard. The Highland House, Ward 4 D on Oak Grove. Polls are supposed to be open at 7 o'clock and they're supposed to close at 8 o'clock. I don't know how that could possibly not be the case. I've never heard of it not being the case until this past election. And so one of my good friends went to that polling location at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, he was not able to get in. Not only was he not able to get in, but there was a police officer there who was not able to get in. There were election workers who were not able to get in, and then he was not able to vote. In addition to that, he went home, came back to attempt to vote again at 7:40, and he was able to get in, but the machines were not up. And so I guess to Danielle's point, how do we monitor when the polls actually open and close to ensure that this is not happening in other areas? And are there any protocols in place to prevent this from happening again? Because, many folks, whether they have to get to work or whether, they have to tend to something else, will not return. They will come in and see that the polls are closed or they can't park and they're not coming back. And so, we certainly want to make sure that they have every opportunity to make their voices heard through their vote. And that certainly didn't occur at the Highland House. Danielle, does that help to frame your question?
Yes, it does. And also it's just in a timely manner. Also, before, we just want to make sure that there are people that are available so that those polls can open at their times. Hopefully, and I hope this happens, because we do, as you're saying, we do want people to be able to come to vote, and we do want people to make sure that they're able to come back and to know if someone is not available at the time, there should be a sign that this poll is, we know this poll is not open at the time. Maybe you can come back at this certain time if that's okay with people that are wanting to vote, because we want people's vote. We want people to vote for the people that they want to vote for, and people deserve that, to have that.
I appreciate that comment, and that ought to be the expectation, is that if the polls are open at 7 in the morning, then they should be open at 7 in the morning. If they're to close at 8, then they should close at 8. Go ahead.
I agree, and I'm gonna speak to Danielle's point as well, but the issue that happened at Highland House, and Chelsea might be able to speak to it more if you want in detail, but that was an issue not of lack of staffing. It was an issue of the property manager or whomever was responsible for opening the polling site didn't open on time. And that's unacceptable, full stop. I'm not going to, make an excuse for it being open late. The polls should be open. The actual, and what we say polls, is the voting machine where a person is allowed to vote. The building itself is a polling location, and the polling locations, the expectation on our part as an election office is that those sites are open at 6:30 in the morning at the latest. So we give people a half an hour prior to the election to show up and unload the machines, start, setting up, and having the polls, which is the tabulator that counts the votes, open and ready for a voter to cast their ballot. Anything less than that is unacceptable. And I just want everybody here to know that we, as an office, there's, maybe 6 of us here at City Hall on election day that do the monitoring of the elections. We have 64 wardens that are out at 41 polling locations. And we have, 286 inspectors that are out as well. But there's 5 of us. And what we do is we rely on the police officers, and to Councilor Hurst's point, the logistical piece that happens is on election day, if there is any issue that happens, the busiest, and I'm thanking Councilor Hurst for having this venue for us to describe it. Something that we live every election is kind of a little bit shrouded in mystery for the most voters. You go in and you just cast your ballot and then you leave. But all of the background work that happens, even on election day, between 6:30 or even 6 o'clock and 7:30 is the busiest time for us as an office on election day, because all of this is happening to prep the polls. And what happened at Highland House is the poll workers showed up with the police officer, and we get a call from the police officer. He will typically call the captain that's on duty, who is standing at City Hall, and say, the door is locked and we can't get in. So now all of our voting equipment is inside the building. It's already set up and it's ready to go. And then on the outside of the building are the poll workers with the ballots and a bag from City Hall waiting to get in and make the polling site open. Now, that didn't happen at this site on election day, obviously. And we have the number for, and then Chelsea can describe what happened at this site. We have since been in communication with the property manager, with the person who we consider a building custodian that is supposed to be responsible for opening up for us, and put into place what we hope is a plan where this does not happen again. But again, it's one of those sites that is not a city controlled site, but we do not like to change it because Highland House is a majority minority building and polling location that's easily accessible to the residents that live in that building. All they have to do is walk down from their apartment and cast a ballot. It's something that former City Councilor E. Henry Twiggs was the person that, kind of made that polling location site a poll, and we continue to use it because we find that people do vote there.
So, unfortunately, we are at our 5 o'clock stop time. I want to certainly thank you all for all of the information you gave. Also want to thank everybody who joined this meeting. I will say it again. This is not the last meeting. We will be working around Commissioner Gladys's schedule. And we will be having a number of other meetings focusing on election. And I know some of the other issues with respect to the Mason Square Library, we didn't get to with respect to voting machines that were not working properly. We didn't get to with respect to mail-in ballots. We didn't get to. And so we will certainly get to those at the subsequent meeting. In addition, the election results, which I know, I'm sure many of you all were here today to talk about the election results. I figured that we might not get to that today, but we will certainly make sure that we get to that in a subsequent meeting. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here. And you all can sort of think about the other ones that we didn't get to in advance of our next meeting. So thank you again and much appreciated.
Mr. Chair, I know you got to end the meeting, but I just had my hand up. I don't have a long statement to make, but would you mind if
Yeah, I would not mind. It's only Mr. No who is going to be waiting.
It'll just take me 30 seconds. I just want to say that the thing about the Highland House, that's really concerning. So I think if you're going to have another meeting, Mr. Chair, I think we should invite the property manager from that facility to come and explain, because that's a really serious concern and that's not something that we'd like to see repeated. And if they can't ensure access to the site when they've promised us access to the site, then I think the city council needs to move the location. We can't run that risk happening a second time. And I think that for the next meeting, Mr. Chair, if you think it's prudent, we should invite whoever that person is that's responsible for providing access to the building to be here to tell us what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenn, and it also may be worthwhile to invite the individual from MLK School here as well. So we will think through that as we move forward, and I'll have a conversation with the committee members as well as you, Gladys, just to see what it is that we can do moving forward in our next meeting. So thank you all. I apologize again if I didn't get to your issue, but we will have another meeting and I'll keep you posted. Thank you.